It's 23 degrees in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Today is January 14. You know what happens tomorrow in Nigeria? I'm going to tell you later. I'm Aya Makinde. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Yes, I guess we stopped wearing this then. But it's Armed Forces Remembrance. Aya, thank you so much for reminding us about that. Armed Forces Remembrance Day. So if you haven't bought your emblem, today might be a good day to show your support to members of the Armed Forces and buy one of these, which we're wearing. But quite interesting times we're in. It does happen that when it rains, it pours. Never mind that it is the Harmattan season and you can barely see anything from Lagos or even here in the Federal Capital Territory. There is enough controversy to keep you interested in the political affairs of Nigeria. And just yesterday in Lagos, out of the blues, from nowhere, we understand that the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, or the former Speaker now, so to speak, has now been impeached. Obasa, who has reigned as Speaker in the Lagos State House of Assembly for close to 10 years now, was impeached. On the bright side, Lagos State got its first female Speaker, Ms. Moji Miranda, who is now the new Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. It does appear that the intrigues, I don't want to say, I had nothing to do with this. I was only in Lagos yesterday. I saw briefly what was happening, and and that was that. But look at this. That was the swearing in of the new female Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. You have to ask questions, though, as to why it seemed that everywhere was dark, but I don't know, maybe it was just that the cameras did not have their lights on, but that's what you're seeing, and it happened yesterday. But when a speaker has served for as long as 10 years, you know that at some point it would seem that he had become a principality of sort. So, Ayo, can you give us an idea of precisely what could have happened? Some people say, is this hubris playing out? Was it his hubris that removed him? Was it political intrigues? Is this ahead of 2027? What exactly could have played out yesterday, Ayo?
Well, sincerely, Mark, all of a sudden you have made me a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly. But I don't know. I think, and this is of course based on information that is available on the internet all over the place. Now, there are many from all of the news that you will see online who would say that it was a long time coming. In fact, I read a statement, a report ascribed to Mr. Fuadoki, who's been our guest on this program quite a number of times. As far as he's concerned, this was something that was a long time coming. We understand also that a good number, a sizable number, in fact, the report says about 90% of the members of the Lagos State House of Assembly voted to impeach the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Now, that's not something that is public, that's frequent. It doesn't happen frequently. But it's not that this is the first time. There has been quite a number of speakers in the Lagos State House of Assembly that have been removed, from office over the years. But this speaker is the longest serving and first employed into the House of Assembly, elected into the House of Assembly, as we say, in 2007, and has served 3 terms subsequently until this impeachment. We also understand that, okay, as you said, Markwe, it's probably because he himself was jostling for office, and there's been also allegations that he's not been in the best of terms with the governor or with the governor of the state, and that there have been some meetings with the governor's advisory council, and that his positioning hasn't also served well. All of these, I guess, the real gist will have to come from Mr. Obasa himself. Whether he is going to come out and address the press, I guess that's something we're going to have to wait to see. But maybe this background or a timeline, Maokwe, is it a good time for us to let people see how far so far?
Governor is second.
Well,
it is
indeed.
I have not given a serious consideration. or lack experience to run, whereas those who have been before me are not better off.
That is the pronouncement that many believe may have contributed to his fallout with the powers that be in the Lagos political circle.
The army payment to seek for blood relation in Ojo to validate my candidacy to run as governor. Of course, I've never denied the fact that I'm Obasa.
But that's not all, as he was also accused of misappropriating a staggering sum of 17 billion naira on constructing the lawmakers building gate and 200 million naira on organizing the 22nd Thanksgiving service for staff of the assembly.
The fact that I'm related to my Obasa family in Ojo.
In March 2020, a civil society group petitioned the Economic and Financial Commission to investigate Mr. Obasa for unethical and illicit misappropriation of public funds. According to the group, the Obasa-led house had spent 2.4 billion naira within the space of 11 months to purchase cars for themselves. The petition alleged that Mr. Obasa, creating fictitious companies, received government contracts, thereby flouting the code of conduct for public officials. Also in October 2020, the EFCC invited Mr. Obasa for questioning. The commission obtained an order to freeze 3 bank accounts linked to him. As Speaker of the Lagos House of Assembly, he was also accused of flouting the COVID-19 protocols. When hundreds of APC supporters gathered in Agric for a rally which had Mr. Obasa in attendance, the crowd had not complied with any of the COVID-19 protocols despite the presidential directive, the COVID-19 Health Protection Regulations, and the Lagos Infectious Diseases Emergency Prevention Regulations 2020 passed by Mr. Obasa himself, which banned the gathering of more than 50 persons. In what appears to be the endorsement of Mr. Obasa's impeachment, some of his colleagues say they've had enough of his leadership, believing the time has come for change. The 52-year-old lawmaker began his career in 1999 when he contested the seat of councillor at Agric local government under the Alliance for Democracy, and he won. He was later elected to the Lagos State House of Assembly representing Agric State Constituency 1 in 2003. He was re-elected in 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023. With his impeachment on Monday, Mr. Obasa becomes the joint longest-serving Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, as he was first elected Speaker in 2015.
Same fate. Ladies and gentlemen, may I use...
Well, so, Markwe, I guess that's some kind of background. What happens going forward? I think that's where the news would be. What happens now? The Governor's Advisory Council, are they going to make a statement about this? Maybe not. But of all the states in Nigeria, Lagos, was one that we know that most states' houses of assembly have one kind of leash or the other attached to the office of the governor. Whether that is the same thing or not in Lagos, I guess we'll wait to see. Does the governor have a role to play in this impeachment? That's another matter altogether. So it's all kinds of drama. Unfortunately, Markwe, you're a Lagosian. You're not in Lagos to witness all of this. So.
Oh, well, it's interesting. Well, you just spoke about the governor's office, and I think I came across a statement from the spokesperson to the governor, Mr. Agboyega, who has distanced the office of the governor from this particular incident. They say they know nothing about this. This was something that happened in the house, and it is strictly their business.
Well, that's
let me also tell you, we understand that the speaker was on his way back to Nigeria, and it was while he was en route Nigeria that he was impeached.
Well, interesting twist to that.
If there's anything I know,
Ayo,
if there's anything I know we have not heard the last of this.
Certainly.
And of course, the reverberations will be significant in the politics of Lagos State, particularly within the ranks of the APC. But that's not our main issue this morning. Our main issue, we're going all the way to River State. Mr. Honorable Mudashiru Obasa was not the only one who was sacked yesterday. Yesterday also, a Port Harcourt division of the River State High Court barred the state executives of the People's Democratic Party led by Aaron Chukwuemeka from parading themselves as EXCO of the party's executive committee members of the party. So we're going to be focusing on that because it does happen that, we all know what's been happening in Rivers State since the current governor of the state fell out with his erstwhile godfather, who happens to be the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. It does appear that all has not been well since that time, and matters are being heightened now because you also have a division of some sort. Some people will say it's not division if you have 27 against 3, but then there are also issues around whether those 27 are still legally members of the State House of Assembly, given the fact that they said they had defected. So then those issues are there, in Rivers State. And now the governor has presented a budget to the State House of Assembly. He presented to the side that has just 3 members. Those who are 27 are saying you have not presented to the right people, but the governor insists that he has done what he ought to do. So that is still there. And then he's also, dovetailing, the crisis is dovetailing to the parties, and now this is the latest ruling from a Port Harcourt division of the Rivers State High Court, which has barred the state executives led by Mr. Aaron Chukwuemeka from parading themselves as executive committee members of the party. So to shed light on this, we have with us joining us this morning Mr. Robinson Awo, who is the former PDP Rivers West Vice Chairman. He joins us via Zoom from Port Harcourt. Mr. Awo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the latest news that we have heard from Rivers State. Can you tell us what exactly is this about? Why is this executive committee important? Because before now, it would seem that somehow the party had been neutral, the governor had found a way to conduct local government elections, and a number of people who are now a significant number of local government chairmen were elected on another platform. So what exactly is the significance of this ruling from the Rivers State High Court?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you, Channels TV. Thanks for having me. To give you a background to the issue at hand, FCT Minister Nyesom Wike served out his tenure as governor and left and handed over to Siminalayi Fubara. At the point he handed over, SIM automatically takes over the reins of power, including the party, the ministries, the agencies, and all parastatals in Rivers State. Unfortunately, Wike, in his usual way, decided to hold on to certain aspects of the governance structure, especially the House of Assembly, the party, etc. The tenure of the party came to an end sometimes in August 2024, and the party ordered that those that have served out their tenure should serve as caretaker for 3 months. Unfortunately, Nyesom Wike and co, instead of maintaining the status quo, which is the original persons that served out their tenure, doctored a new list, which produced Aaron and co as caretaker, without the input of the governor, who doubles as the leader of the party. Going forward, the party fixed congresses. You cannot conduct a congress without the leader of the party. You cannot conduct a congress without the party followers. You cannot bring strangers to conduct congress for a party. At that point, Nyesom Wike went ahead to conduct congresses in connivance with his cronies. The Congress produced leadership at the world LGA and at the state level, which produced Aaron Chukwuemeka. Before the Congresses, the proper party owners, which I'm one of them, went to court and instituted a legal action. The court gave an order that Congresses should not hold in Rivers State. But Nyesom Wike is usual way of perpetrating evil and running to the court to legitimize it, went ahead to conduct the Congress and thereafter went to the court. But today, I believe the era of impunity, the era of forgery, the era of doctoring documents and going to the court to legalize it has come to the end with the judgment of the court. What this judgment means for Rivers State is that the party will return to their original owners. Congresses will hold from the ward to LGA to the state. And the leader of the party, which is Sir Siminale Fubara, will preside over the congresses. This is not the first time Yeso Wike is doing this kind of act. In 2013-2014,
sorry, Mr. Ewa, Mr. Honorable Ewa, if I may, you know, the conversation is not about the FCT minister. The conversation is about what exactly has led to this. And some people will say that it is not automatic, because what you seem to be suggesting is that, and this has happened over the years, but we have been told that it is an anomaly for the governor of a state to automatically assume leadership of the political party. We've seen it over and over again. And we see in some places that it's not exactly the situation. So it's not exactly automatic that when a governor is governor, then he's also the leader of the party. If you look at what was happening in the APC for many years, even though there have been governors, they're not automatically leaders of their parties, especially in a state like Lagos.
No. The situation in PDP is completely different from that of APC. APC is a party that came to merge from CPC, ACN, etc. But PDP has a different foundation. The tradition in PDP has been that once a governor emerges, he automatically takes over the leadership of the party. So what is happening in Rivers State is an anomaly. It's not normal. Yes, so when he became governor, automatically takes over the leadership of the party. Why should it be different from that of SIM? PDP is different from APC. The tradition, the convention in PDP is that once you become the governor, you automatically become the leader of the party. That is the norm in PDP. And what is happening in Rivers State, just like I tried to draw you back, is a man holding on to what is not legitimately his. I have said it in different fora. If you think you are a Superman, you are so powerful, you are so popular, go and register a political party. Don't hang on to the labor of others. Don't destroy the foundation of others. Don't destroy what others build. Build your own foundation. Lay your own foundation. Build your house and live in it the way it's supposed to be. So what is happening in Rivers State, what the court has done now, is to return the party to the original owner that is supposed to lead the party, which is the governor of the state, Sir Fubara.
So when it says the judgment says it just stops them from parading themselves, I mean, of course, this judgment is subject to appeal. Well, usually, I mean, discussing politics on this program for quite a while, and we hear that usually political party matters are not within the jurisdiction of the courts. Isn't this also something that, you know, gives room for appeal? Some people will say, what business? Because usually they will say it's a family affair and they can sort out their issues. This has to do with congresses conducted, which has left a number of family members, in quote, unhappy. So do you see a situation whereby this judgment could be overturned?
No, I don't. They cannot, even if they go to appeal, it cannot be overturned. Because the foundation is solid. The foundation is strong. You cannot put something on nothing. The court says, please, hold on, don't conduct congresses. They went ahead to conduct congresses. Even in our daily life, in our family life, we obey our rules. We obey our laws. PDP is part of Nigeria. Nigeria is a democracy guided by rule of law. There is no way PDP can operate without the rule of law. PDP make rules. PDP have a constitution. PDP must obey its own constitution. In this instant case, the constitution says what Congresses should not. The constitution says the governor of the state is the leader of the party, and somebody somewhere is holding on to something that is unique or peculiar to him. That's something that is strange to the tradition of the party. They can appeal the judgment. It's allowed. PDP itself set rules. He must obey his own rules. That is why at this point, instead of resorting to self-help, the party resorted to going to court. The court is there to set the record straight. The court is there to strengthen our institutions.
So who is the leader of the party? Well, I said the chairman of the PDP now in Rivers State.
We don't have a chairman. That's an issue. We don't have a chairman because the Congress is conducted by the FCT minister and co. That's an issue. Was not supposed to vote. So we don't have a chairman. We must return to status quo. The era when the existing ESCO served out their tenure, and the party ordered that the existing ESCO, those that have served out their tenure, should continue as caretaker. That is the point we will return until such a time that the party will conduct fresh congresses from the world LGA and at the state level.
Who is the party?
The party is a combination of members. Members make up the party. Membership at the world level, at the LGA level, state and national level. These are human beings that make up the party.
Exactly.
And we have the party members in the state.
If you agree, can I ask you, do you agree that those who have now been barred as ESCO members of the party, are they members that you recognize?
They are not our members. They are not members of the PDP. Let me tell you why they are not members of the PDP. 27 members of the State Assembly defected to the APC alongside Aaron Chukwuemeka and co. This is the same member. These defected members to APC is the same persons that you handed over PDP to. It's not proper. If you watch the congresses they held, you watch the video, all the 27 members of the party that defected to the APC were there. They participated. They produced candidates. So how do you hand over our party to non-party members? It's an anomaly. It's not proper. They are not members of our party. They are APC members, led by Tony Okocha.
A very interesting scenario, Mr. Ewo. But I know that this is an issue that, is not over yet. It's an issue that is ongoing in Rivers State. And I do know.
Ongoing.
Beg your pardon?
That was why I wanted to take you a little back. In 2023, 2013, 2014, the same scenario setting in Rivers State, led by Steve Yesowike, the current FCT minister. Chief G.U. Ake was elected party chairman. A doctor document, all manner of documents, that Felix Opoa was the chairman. Went to the court and the court legalized it for him. Obasa served out the tenure. It's the same scenario that are setting now. And that was why I said that the era of impunity, the era of criminality, the era of forgery has come to an end. You cannot perpetrate all this effort and go to court for court to legalize it for you. Court to legalize the tenureship of Felix Opoa. Today is using the court to legalize, to try to legalize the position of Aaron Chukwuemeka. But the court, the Rivers State High Court has said no. That is not correct. You cannot put something on nothing. And most importantly, you cannot hand over our party, People's Democratic Party, to All Progressive Congress. If you look at the article, when the president intervened in the Rivers crisis, Article 3 said that the leadership of those that defected to the APC should be recognized. Who are those that defected to the APC? Martin Samegule and co. It's captured in that document. I have that document here. It's captured. Item 3. They have defected to the APC. And you are taking our party, PDP, to hand over to those that have defected to APC. This is not APC. This is PDP. They should go and do whatever thing they want to do in APC, not PDP. Martin Samegule is not a member of PDP. He has defected. 26 other members are no longer members of PDP. They have defected. Aaron Chukwu Emeka and co. followed Yeso Wike to the APC. They have defected. They are no longer members of PDP. You can't hand over our party to APC. What Wike has done, or what the party and the national have done, was to hand over reverse chapters of PDP to All Progressive Congress, which we are not prepared to accept.
Well, Mr. Ewo, I do know that we will catch up again with you in this conversation. As I did say, it's something that, you know, is still ongoing, and because, I mean, the parties that you have bad, they also have a right of appeal. If you say they use the court, you know, it means that you two have also used the court, so to speak. So I do know, if there's anything I know as a journalist, is the fact that this is not over. So we will certainly be catching up with you in the course of, you know, the evolution, or will I say the evolution of this particular discussion and the development of the story of the PDP and the challenges around it in Rivers State. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise City this morning, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We'll take a short moment now and take you to Lagos, where Ayo is going to be leading the next conversation. Ayo.
Well, thank you, Mokwe. From that, politics, we go to education. And education in Nigeria has long been seen as a key, of course, to national progress. But the sector continues to face significant challenges, particularly at the subnational level. From inadequate funding to infrastructural deficits, many people, including state governments, grapple with how to provide quality education to their citizens. Every year, there are budgetary allocations made to the education sector as to other sectors of every economy in our country. The question is, how significant have these been? What are the challenges? What are the issues to consider? What are the sympathies to express? The recent stance by the National Assembly to cut jam off government's grants raises concerns among other challenges. What should be the focus for 2025 and beyond? Professor Hope Egaga joins us this morning. He's former Commissioner Higher Education in Delta State, and he is lecturer at English Department of the University of Lagos. He joins us via Zoom from Warri. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Program.
Well, Prof, education. Everyone seems to know that it is good for us, but when occasionally we look at it, we're wondering whether or not the academic education in particular that we get in our country, that's going to the younger students, primary, secondary, even tertiary institutions, whether or not they are relevant to the realities of today and the challenges coming up tomorrow. What's your outlook?
Well, thank you. That is a valid question which you've asked, interrogating the nature of education, the type of education that we have, the curriculum which we currently have in the country across all levels. How relevant is the curriculum to our everyday experience? Does it give the child, the graduate, access to work? These are valid questions. There are two ways of looking at this. One is to provide education for its own sake. The fact that people should be educated, should have access to knowledge. The other is to have knowledge that can make them relevant in society. You know that at the tertiary level, education is there, and it prepares you for life. You may take a degree in English, end up as a human resource a person. So, but when you look at the current trends in the country, in the world, global trends, it has become necessary to tailor education in certain directions. All right, we tweak it, and that is what that's what NUC is currently doing in the universities, to make sure that the programs which we run are beneficial both to the students, to the graduate, and to the system itself, to Nigeria. After taking a degree, and you step into the world, we're asking the question, are you well prepared? Okay? So what it means is that from the very basic level, we must begin to interrogate the curricula that we run, to ensure that it is relevant, one, culturally, socially, economically. When I talk about cultural relevance, you study and you are able to fit into the society that you are in. You have a basis. We don't impose alien cultures on you. And so when you leave, you become a monster. So we really need to retweak the curriculum that we run in the educational system.
Okay, so that's a start. But then what's the challenge? A good number of times we've been told that every tier of government in our country has its duty in individual relevances to education. Of course, state governments also from time to time come up with universities for the state, the federal universities, private universities, and all of that. As a former commissioner, Prof, what do you see as the opportunities for state governments, and what is it that has hindered them over time?
Well, as far as I know, a lot of states have established tertiary institutions. They have polytechnics being managed by the states. We have colleges of education. We also have universities. In fact, some are complaining that we now have a glut of universities. I don't agree. The sheer number of students who apply to get a position, get a place in the university, and who are denied is amazing. It's worrisome. All right, you find some people trying to get into the university 3-4 times. Then the other level, you don't get your choice. You want to study medicine, and you're told the cutoff is 300 marks, and you score 280, so you are denied medicine. No. So the states, as far as I'm concerned, are creating tertiary institutions. Often, the access is more expensive than the federal. We don't pay for tuition in the federal, but at the state level, you have to pay something. However, okay, let me make this point. We need to have enough tertiary institutions in order to broaden access, to have more people gain education. And this ties with the very first point we made about the content of the education curriculum. If you simply produce graduates who are not relevant, who depend on the government to work, then they would graduate and become frustrated. And those are the people who promote the narrative, education as scam. All right? And when they say that, they mean that after taking a degree, you don't get a job, either with government or the private sector, because we have so many graduates now from all disciplines. If we need to produce a graduate, but we must also need to provide for them in terms of employment opportunities, give them skills. And that is the reason in the university system, they're talking about entrepreneurial skills. When you graduate or when you're in the university, you are taught how to make good for yourself without getting a blue-collar job. All right? So what the state should do is to ensure that the professional courses are available, and the other courses are also available. Produce enough doctors, produce enough medical scientists, produce enough lawyers, produce enough manpower. We still don't have enough doctors in the country. We don't. Okay, so the states must continue to do this, but also ensure that education is a social welfare service to the people. We shouldn't price it out of the reach of the common man. All right, where, as we find in the private universities, to take a degree in medicine, you're paying millions. Take a degree in law, you're paying millions. You know, there should be access for all the Nigerian youth. These young men and women did not ask to come into this world. We brought them into the world. And now they should be educated. They should have the opportunity.
Well, Prof, one of the major issues that's been in the news for a little bit is that of the National Assembly's Joint Committee on Finance threatening to cut JAMB's federal government grants in the 2025 budget if the agency cannot provide adequate justifications for its expenditures. What do you make of that? How helpful do you see that being in the entire context?
Okay, let us just see this as checks and balances, all right, between the executive arm and the legislative arm. In other words, interrogating the expenditure profile. Let's just look at it from that perspective. But there should be a background to this. If you recall, when the incumbent registrar took over, I think about 2015 or 2016, he was praised for remitting so much to the federal government. And indeed, it was said that in 1 year, he remitted what the whole of JAM in its 1978 to 2015 had not remitted in those many years, but he did. Okay. Last year, he got a subvention of 6.5 billion and remitted back to the government 4 billion naira. Now, on the face of it, that is commendable. Indeed, when it came out that JAM had remitted so much money to the government, two schools of thought. One, are you making profits from these poor, hungry students? All right. But when Professor Isha Kolede took over, the then president slashed the fees from 5,000 to 3,500 naira for JAM candidates. All right. Of course, we know when we run parastatals, there are some models. There are different models. There's the non-profit models. There's the break-even. Then there's the profit model, and then there is there is a merger of all of these. Okay, all these four models. Education comes under non-profit. You're not supposed to make a profit. It's a social service to the people. It's a welfare service to the people, especially as provided by the government. Now, what the National Assembly seems to be interrogating at this time is the amount of money budgeted for feeding. 1.1 billion or thereabout. In other words, if we gave you 6.5 billion, why should you spend 1 billion feeding who? Feeding the candidates? All right. So it's an oversight function which they're doing. In my mind, the federal governments have a responsibility towards the people. All right. And if you cut off subvention, what would you be doing for the people? What you should do is to trim it, in my view. All right. If there are leakages, if there are certain areas where you think that expenditure is too high, bloated, you can then slash it. But to cut it off completely is not acceptable. We don't advise that.
Okay.
I believe that with this kind of intervention from the National Assembly, Professor Oluyede, who is known for his prudence, will go back to the drawing board, and I think there will be an amicable settlement, or there should be an amicable settlement.
Settlement. Well, a number of people will question that, Prof. In the meantime, there is this other, issue, angle to this whole conversation. Most of the time when we talk about education in Nigeria, we talk about academic education. But then there are other needs, and particularly given what you also know, evolving economies all over the world, new needs are coming up, consequently new skills are required. But it would seem like even our academic education, or even general education apparatus, isn't looking in that direction. Take a look at technology, for instance. I'm not sure how many schools, be it formal or informal, are offering enough skills to people to get them ready for that future that is already here. So in terms of technical education, skill acquisition, do you see a need for us to integrate it in some way into national education curriculum that will be binding on every state, federal and local government, or even private schools in the country?
As you rightly said, the future is here. And with the handsets, all right, every student in Nigeria should have access to AI, to new technology, all right? That's on the face of it. Last month, I gave a keynote where I said, we now have students who are in the university, who are in different disciplines, but they are now content creators. Oh, yes. What they are studying in the university is not directly related to what they're doing, but they are content creators. So what should the tertiary institutions do? What should the secondary school students do? I remember about 1998, where I attended the book launch, and an industrialist was complaining at the time that it didn't really make sense to me at the time when he said it. But with the benefit of hindsight now, he made a very valid point. Well, he said, look, in Nigeria of today, if you wanted to build your house, you wouldn't find a Nigerian mason or those guys who do the POP. They are mainly from Benin, across the republic, across the border here. In other words, our young men don't find such things attractive anymore, such vocation. Under the 6334 educational system, which we ran for some years and jettisoned, at the secondary school level, after the first 6 years, then 3 years, the next 3 years you diversify. You go into skill acquisition, so you can survive without paid employment. But everybody seems to have gone in one direction, and we too have followed the people. Everybody wants a degree, all right? So we will need to integrate the current trends in education into our curriculum across the levels, across the board. From primary, I do know that the current program being developed by NUC keys into this narrative. Okay, we are adopting that. Of course, I know that in the lab we are doing something on AI, content creation, narratives from different perspectives, meta narratives, and all. So it should be broad. There should be a deliberate effort towards this. The primary, the secondary, the tertiary. Now, currently in Unilag, we are running the first semester virtually. All right, we are running the first semester virtually. We are teaching our students at home. Because at this time, they cannot return to the campuses or to the campus because renovations are taking place everywhere. So, if we can achieve that this first semester, as we did during COVID, then it means it can become a way of life. So we can run a hybrid. But the students have to be prepared for that. Do we have the infrastructure to support it? How many hours in a day do we have access to power supply? We are teaching, and then where there is a class of 100, you have only 60 students, and the others tell you that they couldn't power their battery, they couldn't power their devices. All right, so it's good. There is it's a concatenated system. It is linked. Everything is linked. We must, if we are going in that direction, ensure that there is regular power supply in the country. But it is the way to go in order to prepare our students for the demands of the 20th century, of the 21st century. We need it. While some are keen into it already, we find that some remain in the background, especially when you travel to the rural areas of the country. All right? They don't have power. The worst infrastructure in those areas are the primary schools, the secondary schools. All right? They're deserted. When you get there, you see a primary school. It wasn't like that. It seems everybody says, yes, this school can be in this school. It's a school. It doesn't matter. It's a primary school. Come on. That is a terrible policy. In my view, every state, starting with the federal government, there should be a policy on the models. What should a school look like? Schools should have power 24 hours. Schools are a laboratory for the future. And when we deny them power supply, they can't have access to the gadgets which you need in the 21st century. You are denying them the future. And that is tragic.
And I couldn't agree more, because just yesterday we were showing visuals of the University of Lagos when we started the program. What I did not tell Ayo is that this is one of the professors, Professor Hope Egaga was one of the professors who molded me while I was at the University of Lagos. It's a real delight, Prof, to be speaking with you on Sunrise Early this morning. I want to ask you, I mean, you have also served, I mean, you left the gown once, and you came to town and you served as a commissioner for higher education in your native Delta state. And I'm sure that then you would have witnessed, as someone who has practiced, teaching in a higher institution, now coming to the other side to witness the challenges with putting policies in place and seeing them implemented. For you, where do you think the real problem lies? Is it with the policies that we have, or is it with the implementation of those who have to carry it out, within the walls of the academia?
Thank you, Mokbe. We are proud of you, the Department of English. Every time we see you on television, we are proud to say that's our product. Now, to get to your question, you see, we are not short of policies in the country. If you go to the books, I mean, I've been involved, as you said, as a teacher, then as an administrator. We are not short of policies. The problem is implementation. All right, we run a system that seems to be short in memory. We run a system in which a part does not seem to know that it is part of a process. It's a chain. All right, when you are producing half-baked primary school graduates, if I call them that, or secondary school graduates, you don't know that what you're doing affects the university. Garbage in, garbage out. So they are all linked. Take, for instance, where it is proposed, the books state that to take a secondary school living certificate, you need competence in this area. Somebody looks at it, but you don't need this in this now, and then they just twist the whole thing, distort the whole thing, and we just move on. All right? So we don't have the backbone that ensures continuity in policies. Those at the implementation level seem to have a different perspective from those who initiated it. But we do know that there are different committees between the ministries of education and the tertiary institutions and secondary school teachers and all. Yes, they meet joint meetings every year, but there is a disturbing disconnect between what is on the ground and what is proposed. So what we need is an integrated system where everybody is aware that, look, You are just a point in the chain. And if you feed in garbage in 2020, in 2026 we'll begin to reap the repercussions. I give you a clear instance. I started teaching in Unilag in 1985. And about a year or two later, those set of graduates, I'm mentioning on the state now, who were promoted without passing from one level to the other, they then found themselves in the university system. And as a teacher grading essays, for the first time, I noticed a steep decline in the level of expression. All right, well, just okay, let's just produce them, let's churn them out, so people don't fail anymore. All right, we are not saying people must fail, but what we are saying is that you must impart enough knowledge, teach them well enough to pass. Not to say someone who scores 20% average in all the system, oh, just move to the next year. No. All right. So the implementation is faulty. But we are the ones. It's Nigerians. We blame government for everything, but as a school principal, you have obligations. As a lecturer, you have obligations. As a vice chancellor, you have obligations to keep the integrity of the system. The Federal Ministry of Education, the State Ministry of Education cannot go around like a policeman to every corner. All of us have a responsibility in this. Even parents. Some parents look for the so-called miracle centers to pay for their children to pass. In other words, if you are not going to coach your child so the child will have enough education, you are paying to the managers of the miracle centers so that they can help your child to write it down. Come on, that is part of the of the problem. So let us use a mirror and look at ourselves. For those who want their children to move from primary 4 to the secondary school, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question on that, because there was controversy recently as to whether or not there should be an age for entry into universities. The federal government initially said, through the Ministry of Education, had said that 18 was the age of entry, and the new minister has come to say, well, that is no longer necessary. I'm just wondering, as a practitioner, somebody who's in the side of policy and also the side of implementation, do you think that should have been, just removed just like that?
You see, how do I start? Let me say, in the first place, there are exceptions to every rule. If you look across the world, there are certain persons who went into the university and graduated at age 12. Those are geniuses. Age 14, the best set of, the brightest set of students we are told in the world live in the UK, the Mafidon family from Edo State. All right, they are all geniuses. Those are exceptions. Now, but if you follow the rule, all right, I remember when we were growing up, there used to be what you call double promotion. If you did well in primary 3, in this same Nigeria, they will ask you to skip primary 4 and take you to 5. They recognized exceptions right now. All right, so they moved you. So if you moved like that, all right, at 16, 17, you will be at the secondary school. So do we keep you at home because you are not yet 18? No, in my view. If you have gone through the system and you are 16, all right, if we take, let's do some mathematics. We'll do it together. If at age 6, you get into primary 1, and then you do 6 years, you should get out at 12. All right? But these days, we find our children leaving the primary school at 10. So that reduces it already. Okay, so by the time they finish secondary school, some are 15, some are 16. Except that child is very bright. Let the child just follow due process, because there's also mind development. Some come into the university very young, very green, and in their year one, they are at a loss. They cannot cope with the environment. So they perform poorly in year one.
Prof, you've answered my question very diplomatically. You're not saying yes, you're not saying no. I mean, I'm wondering if there's a reason to that. Do you think it should have been, left at 18, but maybe room for exceptions, which will be very clearly spelt out?
I don't know whether we should legislate that it should be left at 18. I believe that we should allow the system, the different institutions, different states with their peculiarities to stand. Yes, you see, because if you then legislate, once you then say 18 is the minimum, what happens is that persons will simply look at 18 and say, look, you are not 18, you can't come in, no matter how well you have performed. That is my worry. It is our interpretation of the law. That's the reason. Yes, our interpretation, when you say you must be 18, and then you present your child in the university for admission, they say, no, it's not yet 18. Say, look, this child did well in the school certificate in JAM.
I get the point. Can I quickly ask you, because you already mentioned Unilag, and you did mention the fact that they're doing renovations, and first semester is going to be conducted via, let's say, Zoom or online, so to speak. I'm wondering what's the policy, because initially we had heard that, Unilag was taking off the central grid as a result of, there were electricity issues, so to speak. Can you tell us what the situation is now? Has that been resolved?
Well, I do know. I'm not a member of management, so I don't have the details of how it was resolved. But what I know is that with this Band-Aid thing, Unilag started paying more. All right. The rates of increase was not comfortable for the universities across the country. It's not only Unilag. All right. So there's power rationing that goes on in all the universities. So to that extent, it has not been resolved. The principle, the point that should be made is that the universities are not business enterprises. The university is a social service, and government provides support for these institutions. So if you then begin to charge the university, the Band-Aid thing, and say you're going to pay millions, and we don't get that subvention from the government, then there is a problem. The universities ought to have power 24 hours. There are some researches that could just go wrong because power went off for 1 hour, for 2 hours. Oh yes. So they are paying more. I can boast about that power supply is higher than most institutions across the country. Power supply is good. It's steady. We'll have occasional hiccups when there is a national grid collapse. It affects Unilag. But overall, Unilag has done very well in terms of power supply to the university system, both in the residential and in the classroom. So if I may, I don't know the details of how it was resolved, but I just know that now that the situation has improved. Of course, except I'm in administration, I may not have those details.
That's okay, Prof. Thank you so much. Let me quickly hand this back to Ayo.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Prof, and thank you, Marco, for that. Well, Prof, this is the beginning of conversations. Now that you have had that conversation with Marco, who is your student, I guess some other citizens in Delta State who were your citizens and students as well would like to have it with you as well. Professor Hopegaga is a former commissioner in Delta State and is also a lecturer in the University of Lagos. Thank you for your time this morning. Okay, from education to business with Ine.
I'm sure you can call it business of education or education business. It's a business in everything. After all, the prof there, they talk about the power and payment for it. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Business on this side of Sunrise Daily. It's Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm John McQuarrie. We start today from the currency space, where we see that NAFEX appreciated, gaining, from the previous session, appreciated, added 2.34 kobo. That's for NAFEX to close at 1,549 naira. That's 0.15%. And NFEM was on the flip side, lost about 4 naira right there to close at 1,546 naira. 85 kobo. In percentage, it's 0.31%. The CBN, on the CBN rate, we had depreciation also 0.36% to close at 1,550 naira. And it's odd, normally you would see the biggest value on the CBN rate, but today we see the opposite side. So we have 1,406, 1,549, but 1,550. For the CBN rate at the close of trade today, and still around the 1,500 or under 1,600. I guess that would be a better way to capture it. Now, the federal government has launched a technology export and digital trade desk, and it's supposed to attract more investment into Nigeria's tech sector and also increase startup funding to $5 billion annually. The initiative, announced by the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Mr. Bosun Tijani, is a collaboration with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. The trade desk aims to help local tech companies compete globally by promoting Nigerian technology export. And the goal is to raise the tech sector's contribution in Nigeria's GDP from currently 14% to 21% within 3 years. Mr. Tijani says that the initiative also aligns with the country's effort to improve its ranking in the Economic Complexity Index, ECI, and this is in the works, and we'll see how it's implemented. Now, our President Bola Tinubu, is scheduled to depart to Abuja. Is already, as we speak, in Abu Dhabi for the Sustainability Week. And yesterday we did see a series of meetings that the president has been having. According to a statement by Special Advisor on Information Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, the president is meeting with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. He invited President Tinubu to attend the summit, which already is in place and is supposed to end January 18. The event, Nexus of the Next Supercharging Sustainability Progress, will enable policymakers, business and civil society leaders to explore pathways to fast-track the transformation of the economy into a sustainable form and evolve a new era of prosperity at the event, which the president has already started, is expected to stress his administration's reforms, including those related to energy sufficiency, transportation, public health, and economic development. Now go to the global space. Oil prices slipped. It was a very bullish market yesterday, but it slipped now to open Tuesday, even though it's still near a 4-month high, as Chinese and Indian buyers sought new suppliers in the wake of Biden administration's toughest sanctions yet on Russia. So we see a drop on Brent, 0.27% drop to now $80, $80.79. Remember, yesterday about this time it was above $81. WTI also went down 0.2%. $78.66 a barrel. And remember, all of this started when the United States introduced new sets of sanctions, on Russia and Russian oil, and most of their traders, which of course is China and India, have had to turn the other way for supplies. So it might seem far-fetched, but let's see how this affects us here in Nigeria. Do remember that, of course, our mainstay is still crude. In our budget for 2025, is set the benchmark for crude for Brent, which is our own sources, at $75. So is this good for us one way or the other? There's also the threat that this might increase the price of petrol at the pump, seeing that we're running a deregulated market at this time. Well, let's hear what Senior Associate with Financial Derivatives, Dumebi Oluwale, has to say. Hi, Dumebi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to have you. good to see you. So, we should be happy because $80, $81 above our benchmark of 75 should mean more revenue for us.
Yes.
But at the background, we're also hearing that if our producers, refiners are buying crude because it's a global price,
Yes.
if they're buying crude at a higher cost, then we should expect higher refined products, higher cost of refined products.
I mean, you're not wrong there. So you're very right in that if crude oil prices remain at this high levels that we're seeing, it's a good news for the federal government in terms of what we've benchmarked our crude oil price, what we've benchmarked our budget at, which is $75 per barrel. So what that means is that if we're able to produce more crude oil and we export a lot more at higher prices, we will generate more revenue, especially when we look at it, when you convert the foreign currency earnings into naira. It means that going into the year we might see an increase in fact disbursements like we saw almost all through 2024. It means that the federal government has more revenue to actually meet some of these budget expenditure
Unless,
that they have.
unless for debt servicing.
Exactly.
That's also another.
Yeah, that's also another thing that we're looking at, and it also somewhat means that if we're able to generate more revenue, the budget deficit as a percentage of GDP, which is currently estimated at 4%, for the 2025 budget, is slightly higher than what we should be having, which is about 3%. It means that we might see that somewhat decline, and this is based off of the assumption that all things go well, all prices remain at this.
You
current
economists
level.
say it's all other things being equal.
Yes, holding all things constant, you know that this is the scenario. But we do know that we still have a lot of struggles with ramping up our oil production. We've seen oil production increase. I think on average last year we did about 1.4 million barrels per day, and we saw that steady increase. So if we're able to actually significantly ramp up oil production to hit what the budget estimate is, it means that we're looking at a positive thing going on in terms of revenue for the federal government. But on the flip side, like you rightly said, if oil prices are higher, it means that we might see an increase in petrol prices. But the thing to consider here is actually the source of crude oil for the local refineries that are existing here in Nigeria. We know at the end of last year we did see that the some of the modular refineries are already ramping up production. The Dangote refinery as well is also ramping up production, and to an extent even exporting to neighboring African countries. However, the expectation is that if the NNPC and if Nigeria is able to make sure that these refineries access crude oil locally, what this means is that they're able to hedge some of these higher costs of operations, and then
but they still have to pay at the global price.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that if we look at it in terms of the supply mechanism, right, when you're purchasing crude oil from the person that is producing it and selling at the global market, to an extent it somewhat reduces your cost. So while you're going to
all
pay
those insurance, transportation, logistics,
exactly, because the price in itself, the spot price of crude oil in itself, is not the only determining factor for what eventually becomes the final price or retail price of petroleum in the market. So if refineries are able to reduce all the other costs, from shipping costs to logistics costs, insurance costs, they're able to somewhat reduce that by actually sourcing their crude oil locally. What this means is that to an extent their cost of producing refined petroleum products will decline marginally, and that should somewhat, at least to an extent, keep petrol prices stable. I'm not saying it's going to fall because oil prices are higher, but what we'll likely see is stable petrol prices.
Yeah, but maybe there's so many ifs in there.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the
world that we're working with right now. Yeah,
so to start with, even though the price of crude is going up now, we don't know how long that's going to take.
Last,
Because Biden's administration is the one bringing up this new set of sanctions on Russia. Trump is coming up in less than 2 weeks. Trump is friends with Putin.
I mean, so right now, right, I think the important thing to take, the major takeaway here is that the oil market is volatile. And there's no that doesn't change whether under Trump or under Biden or under Putin. It doesn't change. And what we expect as economists from any developing nation that is highly vulnerable, right, to external shocks like this, that you make sure you hedge. And how do you hedge? For instance, for Nigeria, we do know that Nigeria is more sensitive to changes in domestic in oil production than prices. So where we need to do more of the work is to increase our production, so that if oil prices are higher, we're able to generate more revenue. And we saw this happen during the COVID year. We also saw this happen in 2022. COVID year is an example of when oil prices significantly declined. But what did we see eventually? We saw the cartel coming in. We saw Saudi Arabia coming in to try to make sure that oil prices are propped up and at a certain level where all oil-producing economies are able to at least still break even. They're not all going to break even at the exact same price. But the expectation is that oil prices are at a manageable level where all oil-producing economies, all oil exporting countries are able to generate some level of substantial revenue. The other aspect of it is that when you consider when oil prices significantly increase, right, when you're producing a lot more, you're going to generate a lot more revenue. It's almost like a win-win to an extent. I don't think that oil prices are going to crash because Trump is coming into power, but what we do expect that there will be some level of decline in prices, because with his administration, we do know that there's going to be an increase in the U.S. Crude oil production, and there's also expectations that if he comes into power, we might see a level of stability, or to an extent maybe even the Russia-Ukraine one.
Yeah, he promised us he will sort that out
exactly,
even before
and if
getting
that
into
happens,
office.
exactly, and if that happens, right, what does that mean? It means
less tension,
less geopolitical tension.
Steady
and
supply,
all going to,
and then
exactly.
Well, let's hope so. But FDC has projected that the next inflation number we expect in a couple of days would hit 35. I think that's expected. December, you always have a lot of. But I think the surprising thing is domestic commodities prices are falling now.
Yes.
Because.
I really like the segue to that question, but primarily,
so there you have it. Domestic commodities prices are falling on low demand. People not eating anymore, right?
I mean, what we're seeing here basically, but let me start with the inflation figure. I think, like you rightly said, it's expected, and the reason why almost all research houses at this point forecast an increase in inflation is just because of the festive season effect. We saw what happened with debt in December, an increase in consumption, increase in income, and increase in spending, and we also saw prices remaining high, and that obviously had an impact on commodity prices. But right now we're seeing prices fall, and that's primarily because of low demand. So we do know that in January there's usually a lull in economic activities, and people are not demanding as much, and to an extent some people stocked up from the festive period into January. So what it means is that they're not going to the market as frequently, and so demand is also lower. Then the other thing to consider is this is also the period where businesses are stocking up as well. So to one extent, we're going to see more inventory, and that also will, somewhat keep prices at least high or even lower. Then the other thing to consider is an increase in the harvest season effect. So in Q3 entering into Q4, we do know that there's a lot of plant season and harvest season going on, and from now on, from at least in January, we would see an increase in supply of certain commodities just because we're still in that harvest season. But going into like end of February, going into March, we might see the planting season come up again, and then prices will start.
So this is the time to stock up. It's just
exactly.
Do you have the storage, preservation and all of that?
I mean, we're seeing very innovative, preservative measures now coming up on a subsistence level. People are now learning how to dry their tomatoes, roast their tomatoes, blend their tomatoes, even make homemade tomato paste, right? So we're seeing Nigerian consumers be more lucrative in how they are keeping their produce to ensure that at least it lasts them long. And I think another thing to mention here is the fact that we're seeing more units demand happen now. So people are not exactly buying like 5 bags of rice, 2 bags of rice. We're seeing more unit demand going on, and more frequent trips to like smaller markets or neighborhood markets now, because people are not able to buy.
Yeah, the purchasing power is not there for
bulk demand. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dumi. Before that, I mean, I think at least we have a bit of good news of the reduction in prices.
Yes.
We should surely stock up at this time and see how long. But thank you so much. As soon as we should be financial services company, Dumi Oluwole. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm talking about homegrown initiatives, storage, and everything about our commodities. Let's delve more into that now with the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Seed Project Company Limited, Dr. Zainab Gwadabe, joins us from our Kano studio. Dr. Gwadabe, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Good morning.
So I do hope that you heard a bit of our conversation there. Maybe was talking about what Nigerians are doing now. So price of some food crops are reducing because supply is increasing. And so people are finding innovative ways, homegrown ways to preserve for off-season. I wonder if it's something you've seen around you over there in Kano.
Can you hear me? Can you please come again with the question?
Dr. Gwadabe, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Please come again with the question. I lost
Oh, okay,
you.
all right. So I was asking, oh God, I do hope that you heard previous conversation, because I wanted to follow up on that to say, maybe saying that because the price of some food crops are reducing at this time, it does seem like some Nigerians are finding ways of preservation, making homegrown or homemade tomato paste just to keep it for the off season. I wonder if you have noticed anything like that around you.
Okay. Oh, all right. Thank you for having me, Ini. So, yes, there's a lot of things happening around me, especially in the rural community that I work in. You see a lot of families, women, youth, going back into farming, especially the backyard farming, just to produce food that they can consume, not necessarily to make money out of it, but just to be able to eat for themselves, because everything now has, the price of food has gone up, and most of our staples that used to be affordable to these rural farmers, even though they are the ones that produce it, it is no longer affordable to them. So a lot of women are going into backyard farming, especially with crops like roselle, tomatoes, and their likes. Yes.
So a couple of times I've been to some northern states, and I notice because most of the food we eat comes from the northern part, so it seems a lot of times there's excess supply and there's waste, post-harvest losses. So you see them drying tomatoes, pepper on the roads you're driving through and all of that. I wonder, is that still a constant there, and how do you think we can handle such waste?
Yes, post-harvest loss is very common, has always been there, but recently it's becoming even worse. There are a lot of factors around it. One, there is issue of storage. That is one. Two, there is issue of transportation, power supply. Even if you have the storage facility, sometimes power supply becomes an issue. And yes, there is transportation, and there is even the crop itself, especially the perishable ones like tomato, pepper, atarudu, those ones that don't last after harvest. There is a lot of things happening around them. Women are, even the men now after harvest, try to just cut them and dry them on the side of the roads. Especially in my area, you'll see a lot of that happening.
Aren't there better ways that this can be done from your finding?
Yes, there are a lot of things that can be done with post-harvest loss, especially when it comes to mechanization. Mechanization has a lot of impact, will have a lot of, if farmers are able to go into mechanization fully like everywhere else, like most developed countries, I mean, it will reduce post-harvest loss. I just want to give you an example. If you look at, if you're planting rice and you are using the traditional method, using hoes and everything to cultivate, and you decided to bring in to go into mechanization, maybe to bring someone to come with a tractor and do the labor for you, it will cost you averagely about 130,000 for harrowing of 1 hectare of land, which sounds like a lot of money, but compared to when you do it manually, and at the money you spend doing it manually is more expensive compared to doing it with the machine. If you're doing it manually, I think you pay each person around 3,500 per day. Minimum is 3,000 and 3,500 naira per day, and that person you pay, maybe you have to employ 10 people to do that 1 hectare for you, because they won't like go all in, and like they will not dedicate the whole time to do the work. So you might have to pay today and tomorrow. Meanwhile, if you're using a tractor, you just do it in an hour or less.
So are we saying the lacking, what we're lacking there is the funds?
Lacking, sorry, can you please come again?
Are you in this case saying that the challenge there, the missing link is the money, or is it the machine?
Yes, the issue is the machine, because I've been in this industry for a long time, but currently I cannot say I know one person who owns a maize combine harvester. It costs about 250,000 to harvest a hectare of land, from like the harvest, the removing of the cob, the packing of the straw and everything. It will cost you around 200 and something, and it's even not available even if you're willing to do it. So the longer your corn stays on the farm, the more loss you incur. So mechanization can reduce post-harvest loss with about 400% if done properly.
And yes, we have a lot of youths, especially, who are innovative. I know there's a young man in Plateau State who does some of these machines for agriculture. There are some in University of Lagos. So where are we missing the link, bringing these young brains to where the needs are?
So in the north here, we don't have much of that option, because of the issue of even sensitizing these farmers of the importance of mechanization. They're still very reserved and conservative in terms of adopting technology and mechanization into their daily farming activities. When a farmer is comfortable, it takes a lot of time and effort to convince that farmer that this is the way forward. Like this, with this approach, you will make more money and you'll be more productive. So we're still in the process of that sensitization and creating awareness.
So we have to sensitize them first before we can even get the youth, because there are some youths who are already building these machines. So is it acceptability that is discouraging the youth from broadening their horizon to where the farmers are?
Really, no, I cannot say. It's not. There is issue of accessibility, yes, because we have a lot of issue around extension. There is no farming there is no agriculture without extension, because whatever is done in terms of research, in terms of new technology, in terms of new equipment, if there is no extension, the technology, the machines, the equipment will be there, but it won't reach to where it's supposed to go. Yes, a lot of youths are interested in agri-tech, but the rural farmers, being 80% of the people that produces the food that we consume, are not aware of those technologies or cannot access those technologies yet.
So how do we accelerate this? Do we task the government, for instance, to maybe put it in local dialects and take it there? Or is it individuals like yourself who are inside this, from the private sector, but inside the agricultural sector?
I mean, sensitizing these farmers is everyone's responsibility. With the private sector, the government, the extension, private and government extension service units are all responsible for sensitizing these farmers. But I mean, we have to bring these new technologies close to the farmers who are the people that are very close to these farmers. I would say we, the seed companies, the extension agents, and the local community heads, if we can come together, and maybe farmers believe in what they see. So if you can do demo for them to see for a season, if you use this, it will cost you so amount of money to cultivate a hectare of land, and at the end of the day, this is what you will get. And if you use your traditional method, this is how much you spend, and this is how much you make at the end of the day. So when they see that, then you don't even have to tell them which one to pick. They will make informed decisions on their own.
All right, so some moments ago you did say that you have a lot of youths interested in farming, but that's not the general perception. Has it changed? Do you have a lot of youths in farming now?
Yes, we do have youths interested in agriculture, but we're not where we want to be. We want the youth, considering the population of youth in the country, we want the youth to dominate the sector. So we're still not there, but we're getting there. The youths want to go into the sector, but there are a lot of factors that when you talk to them one-on-one, they will tell you, this is what is stopping me, and this is why I am not where I want to be. These factors like access to finance. When you want to go into farming is not for everyone now, to be honest. They used to think farming is for the poor, but now the cost of a bag of fertilizer is 45,000 naira, so it's not for everyone. And if the youths want to go into production and they go to the commercial banks or any other bank to get loan, they will ask them for collateral. These youths are probably graduates. They're just getting out of school, so they don't even have anything to give, and they are very tech inclined, so they want to look all good, all fancy, and be on the field. So if you can bring in technology and mechanization for them, like you'll be on your bed or in your room and you just be controlling the drones and all those tech things, I mean, they are very much interested in things like that. So it will catch their attention. And
what's your take on genetically modified food? There's been a lot of pros and cons conversation. I just want to get your perception on that.
Oh, well, I don't really like making comments on genetically modified seed, but let me just say a few things. So genetically modified seeds are just like every other seeds. Take, for example, a maize. What differentiates our normal maize from the genetically modified maize is they call this genetically modified maize improved variety. Why is it improved? Because they modified the genes in that variety. They want to make it probably drought tolerant or pest resistant, or they just want to make it adaptable to the climate change. So they just, what they do is they go and find a gene that is resistant to that particular thing they want to do to that maize. Is it pest resistance? So they'll go maybe in animals, it could be anywhere, animals, other plants, and get that gene that can, if put into that maize, can make that maize resistant to pest. But before you put that gene, you have to use something they call a bad gene. A bad gene is the one thing that will make that gene you bring from another plant or animal to put inside the corn to stay and give it that characteristic that they want it to have. It is called a bad gene from the name. Another thing is there is something they call terminator gene. So terminator gene is when something they also put in that maize that after a certain period of time that crop will not germinate again. So you have to go back to the source and get that seed to come and plant, which to me I don't think is is wise and sustainable, because when you depend on someone to give you something to feed your country, it's just a matter any day that that person decided to say, I'm not giving you this material, it means Nigeria is going to be hungry. And we have other crops. What are we talking? Why are we even talking about this genetics? It's all about everything is around climate resilience, being a drought tolerant, flood tolerant, heat tolerant, pest resistant. We have local crops that we are comfortable with that can give us that 10 metric tons that the GMO will give you if, like everything is, with all things being equal, if you follow the good agronomic practice, we have hybrids that can give you the same 10 metric tons.
All right,
so
Dr. Zainab.
If you're not comfortable with that, if you're not comfortable going with that GMO, why just stick to what we
know, what we're used to?
There are countries that I read about, countries like Russia. If you take GMO to Russia, it's a death penalty. So these things are...
All right, Dr. Gwadabe. All right, Dr. Zainab Gwadabe, thank you so much for sharing your findings and your perception on genetically modified food right there. Dr. Gwadabe is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Seed Projects Company Limited. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we have to find a way to get this food security. We have to head back now to the Sunrise Daily Studio, but not before I tell you that yesterday the stock market was in the red, 0.08%, even though we're still hovering around 105,000 level, talking about the all share index. But at 1 p.m., Laddie Williams will be here with Aniti Ede to give you intraday numbers. And 55 minutes of business is what awaits you then. I mean, John Mekwa, hand you back to the Sunrise Daily team.
And back to politics, it would seem. Socioeconomic politics, everything that has to do with life. We go straight to the southeast of Nigeria. Now, tales from those who traveled for the Yuletide suggest a siege by non-state actors in some southeastern states, right, to including Anambra State and, wherever else. Now, of course, this worsening insecurity has, according to some people, led to some significant impact on the development of the region now. What should government be doing to curb this menace? What has government been doing to curb this menace? How come it has not been as effective as it should be? Let's have conversations around this with Barrister Fred Nzako, who is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Is with us in the studio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Joining us virtually is Professor Michael Ade, who is chairman of Nigerian Computer Society, based in Enugu State. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Barrister Nzako, let me begin with you. Some have thought that with this whole conversation from about the southeast of Nigeria, and so much so said about Ibubago, and that it would seem like the tide had kind of eased out, but it's still not Uhuru in the southeast. What's your take, and what do you think is responsible for this?
Anybody who expected that the challenge would have eased is not being realistic, because the right measures have not been put in place to ease the challenges. You can't be talking about development in an environment of crass, massive insecurity. The major problem bedeviling the southeast today, and most especially Anambra State, is the spate of insecurity in the region. In a manner of speaking, Anambra State has become the epicenter of heinous crimes, terrible heinous crimes, murder, unbridled, unceased murder, kidnapping almost every hour, statistically, all around Anambra State, to the extent that even the state capital territory is not free from marauding kidnappers. We celebrated the Yuletide. Yes, you mentioned it. The activities of non-state actors, so many people ran away from coming back to Anambra State. because of the level of insecurity in the
But
land.
that was not part of the opinions of the governor when we spoke with him. We've spoken with the governor at least twice.
Yes, I'm happy you mentioned the opinion of the governor, because the governor himself knows that he's sleeping on duty. As far as the issue of security is concerned in Anambra State, Anambra State has a landmass of about 4,800 square kilometers. It is smallest in the southeast. Enugu State, with about 7,100 something square kilometers of landmass, that almost like 150% size of Anambra State, is better secured than Anambra State.
But that's also in the southeast.
Yes, yeah, the southeast. But what happens is that the criminals in Enugu State have been chased away. Imo State used to be a very terrible environment, but it is now recording better security structure than that of Anambra.
What's interesting?
The criminals in Imo, Enugu, Abia, Ebonyi, and even Delta have all settled in Anambra State at the epicenter of criminality.
The question you want to ask is why?
Because the governor is not doing what he should be doing.
What should the governor do?
What he should be doing is to do what others are doing. He should do what his predecessors did. That secured Anambra State and made it the most secure environment, even the most secure state in Nigeria.
And what was that?
And what was ensure that the infrastructure is put in place. As we speak, there's no single tracker in Anambra State. As we speak, some people were kidnapped, including a Reverend Father. When he was released, he said that the tracking device of Enugu State was the one used.
Do you have this on good authority, Barrister Zako? You're a lawyer and you know.
I know what I'm saying. I say it advisedly and with due respect to all authorities and persons, that our governor in Anambra State is sleeping on duty. He knows it. And when the security men asked him for his assistance, he said he could not help.
Okay, let me ask Professor Ede. Professor Ede, you are in Enugu State. We're really talking about the Southeast development, and particularly in the light of the insecurity and all of those things. So what's your take? Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I was asking that what's your own, we're talking about security in the Southeast, security in a way that promotes the development of the Southeast region. What is your take on what's happening over there?
Okay, thank you very much. I think security remains a major concern in the entire Southeast states. The citizens of Southeast states are concerned about the growing insecurity in the region, but this does not start today, and I'm happy that the current administration, both at the national level and at the state level, particularly in Enugu State, Governor Peter Mba and some other governors in the Southeast, are currently trying their best to see how they can contain or curtail the growing insecurity situation in the Southeast. There are a lot of there are problems about kidnapping, and so-called one chance is still a major problem in the Southeast, and then non-state actors as well. So, and I think the governors are trying their best to create awareness about the need for communities to also play their roles to support the effort of the government, and also to be security conscious as well. Before now, particularly in the Enugu State where I live, the rate of insecurity was very alarming. But since the inception of the current administration led by Governor Peter Mba, he is taking security very serious. And you are aware that just last week, the president was in Enugu to commission command and control center in Enugu State, and also some other security gadgets donated to security agencies. So there's need for other governors in the Southeast states to also imitate or emulate what the governor of Enugu State is doing in the direction of security.
What would have expected, Prof? My apologies for butting you. What would have expected that, the state's governors do have what they call peer review mechanisms. There is Southeast kind of governors forum of sorts, where they have conversations among themselves. Now, if development is happening in one state, or insecurity is happening in one state, one would expect that every one of them would co-own it. But it's a different thing we're hearing. For instance, since electricity came to Abia State, for instance, as a result of the initiative of a former minister of power right there in the state, one would have expected that other governors in the state would have also come up with some initiative to set up their own power generation, transmission, and distribution systems. But I'm not sure if any. So if those are happening, we're not hearing much of them. So in terms of development in the Southeast, do you see the governors having that kind of communication among themselves to create some kind of Southeast economic hub? So we're not just governor is not waiting for the other to take initiative. Every one of them is doing together. What's your take on that?
Okay. I must admit that before now, there was no synergy between the Southeast governors in terms of security or socio-economic development. They were not united as they ought to be. But we are seeing positive sign in the current administration. You can see a bit of unity among the Southeast governors, and one can only hope that it continues to grow, because security requires collaboration, synergy. So currently, I think going forward, the governors of Southeast are trying to work together, not only to support the security agencies in their various states, but also to bring on board communities in form of community policing in order to be able to address arising security challenges in the Southeast. As regards
progress in that regard, my apologies, Prof. Do you see them making progress in that regard?
Yes, I see there's potential for progress, because if you look at what the governors have achieved in recent time, for instance, I just talked about governor of Enugu State, the performing governor of Enugu State, the governor of Abia State, Governor Alex Oti, and of course some other governors in the Southeast. I can see that they are making effort. It will not be a one-day thing. It's going to take a lot of time, because before they came on board, for instance, there were a lot of gaps, and they are trying to address it. For instance, in Enugu State, the governor has employed the use of AI, artificial intelligence, modern technologies. You can see CCTV cameras mounted across the state. And I can see the Southeast Governors Forum are meeting more regularly than they used to be before now, to see how they can actually share intelligence. Because you see that some of those who commit crime, you can see somebody commit crime in a particular state in the Southeast, and then he run to another state to cool off. So they are trying to see how and there's also need for the security agencies to also share intelligence among themselves as well, because there's more that needs to be done. Like
yes, clearly. Let me come back to Barrister Nzako in Lagos. Well, Barrister Nzako, anyone listening to you would probably ask, it's like you have a personal beef against the governor of Anambra State.
I have a personal beef against any governor that is not performing, especially when it comes to security, because life is sacrosanct. The first duty of a government is to secure the lives and properties of the people. That is the whole essence of government. Because without that, people would resort to self-help, and we don't allow that in a democracy.
Okay.
So if the governor or the government is not doing what it should do, we should be able to call the government out.
Okay.
I'm not the only one calling out the government.
No,
of course, we
absolutely.
one
of the issues.
Anytime it does well,
yes.
And when it's not doing well, we should be courageous.
Now, when you say that
the government is not doing well,
yeah, just a second. When you say that, statistically,
yes,
kidnapping is happening on every hour in Anambra State. Yes. Where are your statistics?
The statistics, not only that, National Bureau of Statistics are giving out the indices about kidnapping level in Anambra. A lot of kidnapping incidences do not go.
Now, where are your statistics for today, for instance?
They do not go recorded.
Where are your statistics for today?
You ask the statistics, you can't get that from the police. The Commissioner of Police has cried out.
So you don't have them right now?
Ayo, you don't expect me to police around the whole Anambra. There are people who have the duty. I'm putting the people who have the duty to police Anambra, and they're telling you that they are incidences of kidnapping.
Unless you have those data here.
Let me tell you.
If you had, for instance, just a second,
Yes.
if you had some,
Yes.
PowerPoint presentation and say, okay, based on statistics, these are the facts that I have, these are the facts I have. Barrister Nzako, you can't come here and tell me that a whole governor who receives daily security reports is not telling the truth.
I'm not saying he's not telling the truth. I'm saying he's not working in terms of security. But he's not working. Tell that to him that I said he's not working. He receives security.
So if we say he's not working,
he draws security vote. Now again, you ask me what is statistics on security vote when the governor knows what he draws on security vote. And when I say he's not working, ask the community leaders. There are 177 communities in Anambra State. Ask all the community leaders and they will tell you, all the kings and the presidents of the community will tell you what goes on. Apart from the ones that you see reported on social media, apart from the ones reported on mainstream media, the ones that go unreported are so many. And the government cannot claim not to know. My friend, Professor Ede, is saying glorious things about Enugu State. Of course, he has to say so because the government of Enugu has tackled insecurity in the land. And I say that Anambra is the smallest in terms of land size. And Anambra is the one that there are no forests in Anambra State, more or less. The communities are so intertwined. There are so many people, critical stakeholders that are ready to comply with the government. How much are they harnessed? And what is the extent of report and the result that we see?
Have you ever at any time, if you are as passionate as you claim to be, have you ever at any time had a face-to-face discussion with the governor of Anambra State to raise these issues with him?
If I don't do that directly with the government, I do that indirectly.
And how have you done that?
And I do that directly.
Have you ever written him a letter?
Look, let's not trivialize.
The reason I'm asking this question,
don't personalize this.
No, exactly my point.
Don't personalize this.
Just a second.
When the government, let me answer you directly.
Okay.
When the government was inaugurated, I wrote a memo to government outlining the ways and means to energize the energies, the burgeoning energies of the rich people of Anambra State. How do I mean? Virtually every rich man will want to put in something in Igbo land. We call it the Igbo man syndrome. It's like akin to the Jewish syndrome, whereby you don't rely on government, but instead, at the end of the day, bring back what you have achieved. That is the Igbo man syndrome. And you see that happening in Anambra State, but you need to organize it. How much has government done that? I am happy to report that I believe that government listened to my own advice, listened to that my template, and the government is now doing that. But the government is saying, if you are interested in school, adopt a school and develop that school. Go to every community, virtually every community in Anambra State, they are developing their schools. If you are interested in health sector, go and adopt a health sector, adopt a health facility, and they work on it. That is happening. But security is essentially that of the government. The stakeholders and the individuals and citizens are doing their very best. But the government is the one that is breaking the chain. Now, the government is the one that is dropping the ball.
What I would expect is, since we are talking about the Southeast,
yes,
and you are mentioning a particular state, it would seem like even you have a personal beef against the governor. That is why I'm raising that question. So, if you would advise that, okay, as Professor Ede is talking about, he's talked about 2 or 3 states in the Southeast now, saying that every one of them needs to come together. If every one of them was to come together and go in a particular direction of development, what would be your recommendation?
You mentioned the issue of the governors coming together and synergize. They have Southeast Governors Forum, all right? And I believe that there's peer review at that level. Yes, I also believe that security has to be a synergy among the states of the Southeast. Not just states of the Southeast, among virtually all states, but at least we are looking at the Southeast development. Okay. Because the Southeast development cannot happen when the basic ingredients of development are not there.
Okay. Right. And of course, as Professor, just a second, as Professor Ede said, it's not something that's just started and it's been on for a while. Just 1 second, Mark, I would like to ask a few questions.
Good.
Mark, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Let me take the conversation to Professor Ede. And this time I'm going to be asking him about the Southeast Development Commission Act, which has now been signed into law. Was signed last year, sometime in July. I don't know whether you have any expectations of the implementation of that particular act. It was set up to, help rebuild infrastructure that was lost during the war. What are some of the things that you would like to see that particular commission do?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the President for signing into law the Southeast Development Commission Act. Thank you, Mr. President, and also the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives that brought the bill forward. The expectation from Southeasterners are very high. We want to see a commission that is going to rebuild, reconstruct, and restore confidence of Southeasterners on government. So we want to see that commission walking the talk and not just being on paper. We want to see that every budget made for that commission being utilized, improve the life and economy of Southeast states. Before now, there has been a cry for marginalization of the Southeastern states or Southeast as a whole, and that is why you have a lot of non-state actors coming on board and all of that. And now that we have Southeast Development Commission, they have a duty and responsibility to ensure that they perform, by improving the infrastructure state of Southeast as a whole. If you come to Southeast, we have a lot of challenges. We have erosion challenges in Anambra, Enugu, and other parts. Some of our roads, connecting roads, are still very bad. And we need to feel the impact of federal government more than what we have before now. These are our expectations. We want to see more of our youths being trained, empowered with modern day skills, because this will help to even address the problem of insecurity in the zone. In general, we want to see a performing commission, not just a commission on paper. Just like the way we see some impact of Niger Delta Development Commission, we want to see the same thing replicated in the Southeast.
Where do you think the commission should be domiciled?
I believe it should be domiciled in the capital of Southeast State, which is Enugu State. Because Enugu State is ready. We have a ready infrastructure and security in place to support the activity of that commission. So I support that it should be domiciled in Enugu State.
Not yes. In the nerve center of the Southeast, which is Anambra.
No, I agree with you that that before now, Anambra used to be the commercial center of Southeast states, Southeast. But Enugu has come on board since the inception of the administration of Governor Peter Mba. You can see International Conference Center is ready. The road infrastructure has greatly improved. Power, security, and a whole lot. So, Enugu is ready for that commission. And I know that the governor of Enugu State is very ready to assist them by providing them the enabling environment or the infrastructure that they will need to start work. So Enugu is at the center and very much accessible to other states. It's at the heart of Southeast, Enugu State.
Well, I do know, I had the privilege of visiting Enugu sometime in December, and I can say that indeed it does look it's very calm, very easy. But clearly, Mr. Nziako is not very happy with what is happening in Anambra State. But recently, over the Christmas season, Mr. Nziako, there were a number of visits paid by very prominent sons of Anambra. One of them is Chief Emeka Nyoku, who went round with Governor Soludo to look at what the governor has been able to put on ground and gave very good commendation to the governor of the state. Are you saying that, elder statesmen like that did not know what they were saying when they, gave very big thumbs up to the governor of Anambra State?
Well, I'm not saying that the governor is not working. The governor is doing his best in terms of infrastructure, in terms of road construction and the rest of them. But the governor is not doing well in terms of security. We are very particular about that. And when you talk about development, which not only government is expected to bring development to the Southeast, the stakeholders, the individuals, the patriotic citizens, the enterprising Anambra and Igbo people who want to bring home their enterprises, who want to ensure that jobs are created, who want to ensure that all the infrastructure that they need to put are put. They cannot work in an environment that is bedeviled by insecurity, where blood keeps flowing ceaselessly. They cannot work there, and that's why they run away to other places. The easiest way to drive away investment is to create an insecure environment. We all know this. There's no need playing the ostrich or say, oh, the governor is not working. The governor is working, but his work is not in terms of securing the lives of the people. I am very, very particular about this. I am saying this with all due sense of responsibility. Okay. That virtually if you ask the elder statesman, his opinion about security, his opinion will not be different from mine. Yes, okay. In terms of other areas, the governor is doing well, but we want him to do a lot better in terms of security. Every other thing will be added onto his government. Okay, thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. Barrister Fred Nzako is a lawyer and public affairs analyst. We appreciate your time, as well as Professor Michael Ede, who is a military veteran and chairman Enugu State, the Nigerian Computer Society in Enugu State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And that's our show this morning. Thank you again for the privilege of being a part of your morning. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Oh dear, well, I was hoping that we could take some mail this morning, but Festus Akimboyewa and Professor Nakina, once again, our apologies. We certainly will take them tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Malcolm Yusuf. Goodbye.